Rode squeaked in another wireless product release right before the buzzer of 2024 with the Wireless Go Gen 3. This is the updated version of the Wireless Go 2, which is now their mid-range, full-featured wireless microphone system. The Wireless Pro, which came out in 2023, is sort of the flagship system and does still have more features than the Wireless Go Gen 3, but because of the existence of the Wireless Pro, this kit is now in kind of an awkward position. Let's talk about the details and I'll explain what I mean. Before we dive in, I want to mention that Rode sent me the Wireless Go Gen 3 for the purpose of reviewing it. They are not sponsoring this video. In fact, nobody paid me to make this video, and Rode will not have any input on my review. I do have a couple affiliate links to different retailers in the description for you if you decide to pick up the Wireless Go Gen 3 and you'd like to support this channel. All right, so let's dive in and talk about what you get with the Wireless Go Gen 3. The audio you're hearing right now is the Wireless Go Gen 3 recording into my Panasonic Lumix S5 II through the 3.5mm input in 24-bit at 48 kilohertz. And I am also recording this in 32-bit float in the transmitter internally. More on that later. We'll give you a sample going back and forth between the two so you can see the difference between the sound quality. Now, the main kit for the Wireless Go Gen 3 has an MSRP of $299 US and includes 2 transmitters and 1 receiver, a USB adapter thingy so you could connect all 3 to your computer together, wind muffs for the transmitters, a 3.5mm TRS cable, USB-C to USB-C cable, a USB-C to Lightning cable, and a carrying pouch. Notably not included is a charging case. Rode does sell a charging case called the Charge Case Plus for $89 US. It's the same functionality as the case that comes with the Wireless Pro, which I do have, and I've been using it since it came out. One great feature of the charging case is that it not only charges everything, but the USB-C connection is also a data connection, allowing you to pull the audio files off of both transmitters and update the firmware over a single connection instead of having to connect all of them separately. Now, this adapter that they provide with the Wireless Go Gen 3 actually allows the same functionality. It charges all 3 at the same time, and it also allows you to pull the audio files off of both transmitters at the same time. So really the only thing you're missing if you don't get the charging case is the ability to recharge your transmitters and receiver while you're on the go without having to plug everything in. Now, also not included in the base kit are magnets, one of which I'm using right now. You have to buy those separately too for $19 actually. You get the metal cover for the clip and the magnet. That's $19 each, so $28 if you want a pair of them. I'm not waiting for the pros and cons section for this comment. For $300, they should give you the magnet clips. All right, now let's get into some of the differences from the previous generation, the Wireless Go 2. And we've now switched over to the internal recording in the transmitter. So this is what is actually recorded internally in 32-bit float. And yes, that's the primary big upgrade from the Wireless Go 2. We now have internal 32-bit float recording and increased internal storage to 32 gigabytes for up to 40 hours of audio in each transmitter. This matches the Wireless Pro and makes it basically impossible to clip your audio or cause distortion because you've exceeded 0 dB, as long as the source audio does not exceed the max SPL of the microphone capsule, which is 123.5 dB for the built-in mic. As long as you don't exceed that, you'll be able to bring the level down in post without any distortion. There's a dedicated record button on the transmitters and a separate indicator light to let you know if you're recording, and you can also set the transmitters to auto record when you power them on if you tend to forget to press the record button. The microphone in the transmitter also has an improved frequency response with more low end compared to the Go 2, which you'll be able to hear later in the comparison. There is still a 3.5mm input for using lavalier microphones or other microphones that have a 3.5mm output. However, it's now a locking connector, so it's more secure and it's easy to use with any locking connector lav mics that you may already have. There are no lav mics included in the kit, however. The stated range has increased from 200 meters with the Wireless Go 2 up to 260 meters with the Wireless Go Gen 3, according to Rode, and we will test that out in just a moment. Battery life is 7 hours for the transmitters and receiver, the same as the Wireless Pro. Recording modes include merged, which is a mono signal, and split, which is a stereo signal that records the transmitters separately. You also have safety track mode, which records the same signal on both the left and right channels. However, one of them is going to be at a lower level in case you encounter clipping. All of the modes are supported over 3.5mm and USB connections. Another new addition is Rode's automatic gain assist feature, which has two modes, auto and dynamic. This feature listens to the source audio and adjusts the gain up or down to output a more consistent audio level if the source changes volume. You can also turn this feature off and set gain manually using the receiver menu. One feature you can only access in Rode Central is the high pass filter. There is no setting for it on the receiver menu. Transmitters allow you to enable a 75 Hz or 100 Hz high pass filter, and it does apply to both the built-in microphone and any 3.5mm microphone that you connect. There is also integration with Rode's wireless ecosystem, of course, so you can use the transmitters directly with the Rodecaster Pro 2 and the Rodecaster Duo without the receiver, and you can also sync other Rode transmitters to the receiver, like the Interview Pro mic that has appeared in front of me here. And the last update is the color range. There are now a whopping 14 colors to pick from, so if you like to have your mic on camera and don't want to hide it, you can now choose your favorite color instead of just black or white. All right, now let's test out a few more of the features. All right, now we're switching over to recording the audio over the USB output of the receiver into my MacBook Pro using Audacity. We're doing this so that we can test out the different gain modes. This recording was done with the manual gain setting for the transmitter set to 20 dB, and the output gain setting on the receiver is set to -12 dB. This recording was done with the auto gain assist set to dynamic mode and the output gain on the transmitter set to -12 dB. And this recording was done with the auto gain assist feature set to the auto mode, and the output gain on the receiver is set to -12 dB. All right, now we're going to test out the high pass filters, and for this I've got the receiver still connected to my MacBook and recording into Audacity. We're using merged mode and the dynamic gain assist mode. I'm going to turn on some noise playing through my desktop speakers. Specifically, this is noise I've verified has some low frequency information. It's basically all low frequency information. All right, so the low frequency noise is on now. You likely are going to need headphones to hear this because the low frequencies that are playing are pretty quiet if you're listening through a phone speaker or laptop speaker. So I would encourage you to put on some headphones so that you can hopefully hear the difference here. Now this, again, this is no high pass filter engaged. And now the high pass filter is turned on at 75 Hz. Let me know if you hear a difference in the low frequencies of the noise compared to without this filter turned on. And now the high pass filter is set to 100 Hz, so there should be even more of the low frequency noise removed. And now the high pass filter is turned back off, so all of that low frequency information should have come back. Let me know again if you've heard a difference. Now, before we go outside to test out the range, I wanted to give you a quick sample of audio from the Wireless Go Gen 3 with my typical post-processing applied, so you can get a sense of how it will sound once I actually polish it up a little bit. Again, I'm recording this into my MacBook using the USB output on the receiver. I have the gain assist set to dynamic. The high pass filter is not engaged on the microphone, but I am going to be using a 75 Hz high pass filter in post. We'll talk more about this when we get into the pros and cons later on, but for now, I just wanted to give you a processed sample so you can hear sort of the potential of the Wireless Go Gen 3 after it's been cleaned up a bit, at least the way it sounds for my voice. For our range test of the Wireless Go Gen 3, we are pairing it up with a competitor in the same price range, the DJI Mic 2. The receiver is going into the camera for the Wireless Go Gen 3, and the DJI Mic 2 receiver is going into a smartphone that's off to the side. So we will cut back and forth between these at each distance to see if one of them starts to break up before the other or just generally performs better at distances. Our first stopping point is just 10 meters away from the camera. This is already probably as far as I would ever be from my camera for my use purposes. We shouldn't have any issue with either of the transmitters at this distance. I'm going to turn around for a second and see if having my back to the camera breaks the signal up. It definitely will break the signal up doing that once we get out to probably around 50 meters. All right, we are now at 25 meters away from the camera, and I will go ahead and turn around and chance to see if either of the mics are breaking up. So there we go. Turn back around facing the camera. Again, 25 meters. Is there a difference in performance between the Wireless Go Gen 3 and the DJI Mic 2? All right, we are now at 50 meters away from the camera. This is the distance where, I mean, this is like way beyond what I would ever need to do, but the point is to test the manufacturer's stated range, not whether this is reasonable as far as everyday use. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn my back and we'll Between both of these, this is the distance where I personally have experienced signal breakups when my back is turned and I have an obstruction. Now I'm turned back around facing the camera, so did either one of those cut out? All right, we're now all the way out at 100 meters. We should still be within the usable range for both of these microphones, but you tell me, how is the performance at this distance? I'm gonna go ahead and turn my back. My back to the camera breaks up the signal at all. I would expect. Now we're gonna turn back around and let's see if we can go further. All right, we're now all the way out at 150 meters away from the camera, and I don't know if either of these is going to work at this distance. We're at the distance now where most of these systems, 2.4 gigahertz systems that I have used, will break up. And it doesn't matter, usually, in my experience, whether the manufacturer states that they work up to 200 meters or 300 meters or more. I typically find that the signal starts to break up in this exact location once I get to 150 meters. So are both of these working? Is one of them working? All right, I'm now at 200 meters away from the camera, and this is the distance where don't really know what to expect. 200 meters away from the camera, are either of these still working? This is 250 meters away from the camera, and I'm probably completely invisible in the camera at this point, but I'm not sure if either of these is going to work at this distance, but I do have the internal recordings in the transmitters to back me up in case. Anyway, this is the end of our test, 250 meters. Now here's a quick sample of the Wireless Go Gen 3 running into the iPhone 16 Pro Max using the USB-C connection. I don't have anything else connected to the iPhone, just the receiver over the USB-C connection. No high-pass filter or anything, just recording mono 48 kilohertz 24-bit using Blackmagic camera, and this is how it's sounding. All right, here is a sample of the Wireless Go Gen 3 running into the DJI Pocket 3 as I walk through some brush that I did not see because I'm not looking. I have the receiver connected to the USB port on the bottom of the Pocket 3. Now I'm using a little attachment here, sort of like a cage, except it's made of plastic. It's not super awkward to hold, but it's kind of specific to this particular attachment or accessory that I have. I will link to it in the description if it's still available on Amazon. It does work, and it's not super awkward to hold. So for me, this works just fine with the Pocket 3. Certainly if this was stationary on a tripod or a desk or something, it would be even less awkward. All right, now before we talk about pros and cons of the Wireless Go Gen 3, let's do a quick comparison to the previous generation, the Wireless Pro, and a competitor. In front of me, we've got transmitters for the Wireless Go Gen 3, the Wireless Pro, the Wireless Go 2, and the DJI Mic 2. I'll put all the prices of these kits up on the screen so you can see the price range that we have here. I'm recording all of these at the same time using the internal recording in the transmitters because they all have internal recording. Now, the only one that is 24-bit internal recording is the Wireless Go 2. The other three have 32-bit float internal recording. They are positioned below my mouth, but because I'm not wearing them under my chin, you're probably going to be hearing a little bit more of the high frequencies than you would if you were wearing them individually. So if it sounds different from the rest of the video, that's why. Now, the reason that the Wireless Go 2 is here at all is just so you can hear the difference in the sound quality of the microphone compared to the Wireless Go Gen 3 in case you're thinking about upgrading. All right, let's talk about the DJI Mic 2 here, which retails for $349 for the 2-transmitter kit with the charging case. There was a firmware update about 6 months ago which improved the frequency response of the built-in mics, and it definitely made a difference. I was not a fan of the sound quality prior to that firmware update, but it's pretty good now. The DJI Mic 2 does also do 32-bit float internal recording, as I mentioned, but the storage is considerably less. It's only 8 gigabytes, which is good for 11 hours of 32-bit flow, and that's way less than the 40 hours you get in the Wireless Go Gen 3 or the Wireless Pro. The charging case is included in the kit, but it does not have a data connection, so you still need to connect the transmitters separately to pull files off of them. One trick up its sleeve, though, is the ability to connect directly to DJI's cameras, including the Pocket 3, Action 4, and Action 5 without a receiver. So if you have those devices, you do get a streamlined setup. And now let's consider the Wireless Pro. Rode says the mic capsule in the Wireless Go Gen 3 is the same as the Wireless Pro, but I personally hear a difference. The sound of the Wireless Go Gen 3 is a little bit muddier to me with less high-end presence. This is easily corrected in post with a little EQ adjustment, but to me there is still a definite difference from the Wireless Pro. As far as feature differences, really the only thing is the timecode generation. Otherwise, the Wireless Go Gen 3 Basically has all the same functionality of the Wireless Pro. The big difference is what's included in the kit. For $399, the Wireless Pro includes the charging case, magnet clips, and 2 lav mics, specifically the Rode Lavalier 2, which retails for $99 each. To get all of that with the Wireless Go Gen 3, you're talking a total MSRP of, well, a lot more than $399. Even just adding the charging case gets you dangerously close to the price of a Wireless Pro kit. So that's it for the audio comparison. Let's put all of this info together now and talk about pros and cons. Let's start with the pros of the Wireless Go Gen 3. First, we have several upgrades from the Wireless Go 2. You have 32-bit float recording with more storage space, threaded lav connectors, the charging case available that also has a data connection, auto gain assist, and all of those features are nice upgrades to the specs and features from the previous generation. Let's consider some pros in favor of the Wireless Go Gen 3 specifically compared to the DJI Mic 2. The connection performed better than the DJI Mic 2 at longer distances in my testing. I did not go beyond 250 meters in my testing, but even before that distance, the Wireless Go Gen 3 performed better in identical conditions. However, it is worth pointing out that if you never go more than 10 or 20 meters from your camera, you likely won't really notice a difference in performance between the two. The battery life of the transmitter is a little better than the DJI Mic 2 at 7 hours versus 6 hours. You also get a lot more onboard recording space for 32-bit float files. You get 40 hours of audio time versus only 11 hours with the DJI Mic 2. You also have a locking 3.5mm connector. You get the auto gain feature, which the DJI Mic 2 doesn't have, and of course, it now comes in more color options. The one thing the DJI Mic 2 has going for it that the Rode system does not and basically cannot is the direct connection to DJI cameras. So if you have the DJI Pocket 3, Action 4, Action 5, and you don't want to use a receiver, you just want to connect directly to those cameras, that of course is one thing that Rode system just can't do. All right, before we talk about cons, let me just mention a couple things that I think fall into the neutral category. These are things that I can't really say are a pro or a con, at least not for everybody. I said the same thing about not having noise reduction in Rode's wireless micro system, and I call it neutral, even though some people might consider it a con. I don't care that it's not there because I've yet to experience any built-in noise reduction feature that I would actually use. DJI offers it in the Mic 2, and it just makes the audio sound terrible. Now, if companies start including actually good sounding noise reduction in wireless mics at some point, then not having it would probably be a con. But for now, I consider it not a con. All right, now let's move on to what I consider actual cons for the Wireless Go Gen 3. First of all, the sound of the built-in mics is a little bit muffled due to less high-end presence compared to the Wireless Pro. This is a minor con because of course you can EQ this, but I prefer the sound of the Wireless Pro because it needs fewer EQ adjustments in post, at least on my voice. I do consider it a con that the Wireless Pro still sounds better to me. Also regarding the sound, let's talk about the high-pass filter. Both of the options don't have much of an effect on the frequency response, even the 100 Hz option. The slope or curve that they're using must be very gentle, like in the range of 6 dB per octave, because when I compare the built-in high-pass filter to a high-pass filter I applied in post using a 12 dB per octave slope, I get a much more significant impact on the lower frequencies. Now, the reason I'm saying that this is a con is that if you're wanting to use the high-pass filter so you don't have to do it in post, or because you're in a live situation where you won't be able to edit the audio later, it's not doing that much to remove low frequency noise. It is doing something. It's not like it doesn't work, it does nothing, but it's just not doing much. Another con here is we still have a glossy transmitter with a white logo on it. So we're still covering these things up with gaff tape if we don't like the look of them on camera. Of course, you can just use a lav mic and stick it in your pocket, and that solves that issue as well. But, you know, I would still love to see these with a matte finish and less obvious branding on them. All right, another con here is something that I'm a little conflicted about saying is an actual con, but I am a little disappointed here to see that there wasn't any redesign of the transmitter. It's kind of bulky compared to the competition at this point, and there was really no innovation in the design from existing Rode products. There's really just a new packaging of features here. Otherwise, everything that we see already existed. Now, Rode kind of did their own thing with the Wireless Micro, which came out just before this. They didn't copy one of their existing product designs or someone else's, so I was hoping for more of an evolution of the Wireless Go product as well. So not really a true con in terms of a downside of this product just generally I was a little disappointed not to see this evolve a little bit. Now, up to this point, none of these cons for me would be deal breakers or reasons for me to say don't buy this product. They're all pretty minor, and for me, the pros all outweigh them if this product were released in a vacuum. But now we have to talk about the price and what's included relative to the Wireless Pro. As I mentioned earlier, for $399, and even sometimes less than that if you shop around a bit, the Wireless Pro gives you everything in terms of functionality, plus the charging case, plus 2 lav mics, plus the magnet clips, and time code generation, all of that for $399. Now, if you want all of that in the Wireless Go Gen 3 minus the time code generation, you're gonna pay a lot more, and that just makes no sense to me. So, yeah. If the Wireless Pro didn't exist, or if the pricing were different here, this would be fairly easy for me to recommend. But with the pricing and what's included being what it is, I have to say that for a lot of people, the Wireless Pro is just the better buy. So who should consider buying the Wireless Go Gen 3 instead of the Wireless Pro? Well, Rode somehow managed to make it both difficult for me to recommend this to a lot of people, but also pretty easy for me to define who I would recommend it to. So that would be if you don't care about the charging case or the lav mics. Maybe you already have lav mics, or you just never plan on using them, and you don't really see the point in the charging case as long as you can connect everything to your computer at the same time, which you can using this adapter. If that's you, then you can just buy a pair of the magnet clips and get almost all the features of the Wireless Pro for $337. Pretty nice discount there. Now, if the Wireless Pro were to be discounted down to the range of, say, $350, then the Wireless Go Gen 3 becomes a harder sell for me, because even if you don't care about the charging case and the lav mics, the price would be so close together that you might as well just get the Wireless Pro, unless you really want one of the special colors. So ultimately, there's very little wrong with the Wireless Go Gen 3 as a standalone product. It's just that the pricing puts it in an awkward position. My only real disappointment with it is that we didn't see any physical evolution of the transmitters to be smaller or lighter. I'm hoping that with the next generation of the Wireless Pro or Wireless Go, they go in a little bit of a new direction to make the line stand out from competitors even more. All right, that'll do it for this video. Let me know what you think of the Wireless Go Gen 3. Let me know if you pick one up for yourself and how you're liking it. Don't forget to subscribe to the Semi-Pro Tech and Gear channel, and while you're here, check out one of these videos. I know you'll enjoy it. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.